office holders, proliferation of private jets, acting as if this party would never end. You know, all this was abused the sensitivities of a large section of the population, and corruption was rife. And it was just a way of life for so many people. But the divide between the middle class was being eradicated, so the divide was strictly between the rich and the poor were largely more in number. And so all that has to be addressed. You need to get over the psychological trauma of a defeat. They have been in power or in office for 16 years. They need to consolidate. The base of the PDP right now is largely the South, South, and Southeast. Consolidate from there and regrow. There are areas, parts of this country that had PDP leadership. You've got to go back and ask what went wrong in those places and localize the opposition in those states, right? Prepare yourselves for the next election. Now, taking over from an incumbent is a very difficult thing, but you just have to wait, and hopefully the opportunity would be just right for them to move in. It could take some doing. It could take another 16 years for them to actually come back to the center. But leading at the center doesn't matter. Today, perhaps the PDP has about 10 states. I'm not sure when this is all over. It's a good place to start from. You may need to redesign the party completely. Don't forget what we now see as the APC was an evolved. It was ANPP at the beginning and PDP, which were the two formidable parties in the country. Then you had the AC, which eventually became the ACN, then an amalgamation of all the parties to form the APC. PDP will also have to re-evolve and re-strategize to get there. But I do hope that it doesn't fizzle out. I'm quite concerned and disappointed that a number of people have jumped ship. I think they will be disappointed too, because there are folks there. These guys have been out in the cold for 16 years. You know, they're not just going to take you in because, you know. So they would come back frustrated in due course and build what we have, the remnants of it. Overall, though, it's best for Nigeria.
We must take a break now. We ask that you please join us again after this very short break. Welcome back. Did you really believe that Yar'Adua was going to be a better president than yourself?
I thought it was foolhardy to continue the campaign when it was ever so apparent that he had the endorsement of the party leadership, right? And the party itself was working for his emergence. And I thought the honorable thing to do was to let it go.
You threw in the towel?
Largely, yes, because it wasn't going to work. The entire party machinery was working in his favor. Actually, we were called in for a meeting and literally told that the party supporting his candidature, which was very interesting because he didn't seek the presidency. If anything, the presidency sought him. And
why do you think that was the case? What do you think was the motive for that?
It's part of the arrogance that creeps into our political life, where you decide that, you know, I said we're quite feudal. In a feudal system, you have a crown prince, right? And so the party determined who the crown prince would be. As we evolve politically, that wouldn't happen. And don't forget, this was the first change of baton, as it were. So we're still in our political infancy. But we're growing. We're no longer, I think we're no longer toddlers, political toddlers. But we're still young politically. Today it would be difficult to get up and say that this is a man taking over from me and everyone fall in line with him.
Have you given up on your presidential dreams?
You know, the presidency is an interesting aspiration. I tell folks that there is ambition and there is opportunity. The ambition may still be there, but is the opportunity there? And if both don't come together, it's a foolhardy enterprise. And so there are two things at play here. Ambition is there. There are some people who don't even have the ambition. That's okay. So the ambition may be there, but if the opportunity is not there, it won't happen.
You became governor at a relatively young age of 37. Was youth an advantage or a disadvantage in that very important role?
It was an advantage in getting there because we were dealing with the mass of the electorates could relate to me, right? I could speak to them as contemporaries, and so they enjoyed that. You know, we could high five and crack jokes. It wasn't subservient in any way. So in getting there, yes, but age, when not backed by experience, has its disadvantages. I had advantages in the sense that at the age of 30, I was already commissioner in my state, and I'd been commissioner for about 2 years in a very strategic ministry, Ministry of Finance. So I had a broad overview of the state. And after doing that, I went on to being a member of the National Economic Intelligence Committee. Professor Aluko was our chairman at the time. And that had a national responsibility. And I was also concurrently a member of the Federal Economic Council. So I think between the age of 30 and 37, I had really been thrown out into the works to gather all the experience and was given the exposure that came to bear when I assumed office as governor.
Tourism is clearly big business, but Nigeria doesn't seem to have caught on to that fact. Now that economic diversification is the new mantra, what needs to happen for Nigeria to be able to get a piece of the tourism part, a big piece of the tourism part?
Tourism is far-reaching. It's very encompassing. It requires the development of your infrastructure, both social and physical. You can't have tourism in an environment that is not safe, that doesn't have good infrastructure, roads, electricity, water supply. You require a certain level of literacy because tourism requires you to interpolate and communicate with people. So you need to have the exposure, the literacy to be hospitable to them. You also need to have good Medicare, right? You wouldn't go to a place, you wouldn't go to Freetown right now and say you're going to do tourism because you know that there's a health scare there. So it's very, very encompassing, but also it has to do with the mindset. Okay, I remember when we started in Cross River, it was difficult. People say Calabar is clean or the people are clean. Yes, but